that time again, my dear friend. Let's talk about Magic the Gathering. Final Fantasy set's out. It's here. Best-selling set of all time. Confirmed. Literally confirmed. Best-selling set of all time before the set was even out. And frankly, I think it deserves it. Personally. It's a very, very well-designed set. And for the Final Fantasy fans, the flavor, chef's kiss, absolutely beautiful. But before we get into all of that, hello, and welcome to this episode of Bonus Action, a supplement to the Duels and Mandorks podcast with our wonderful friend Wyatt, a.k.a. the typical Gemini himself, adjusting that camera, looking schnazzy as always, with the little one as well, as always.
As always. As you know, always. I'm a very attentive father.
Very attentive father. Much better than the average man, I would say. A lot of dads out there get home from work and they're like, "Ugh, I need to decompress for 3 hours and then go to bed."
Yeah.
Good
What's
man.
That?
Decompress?
Yeah.
It's this thing that people are supposed to do that helps them take care of themselves a little bit, and then they don't do it.
Okay.
Because it's exceptionally inconvenient to this modern world we live in, you know. So, Wyatt, what kind of events have you participated in with Final Fantasy? Have you gotten any of the cards, gone to pre-release? What have you experienced so far with Final Fantasy?
I have been... Final Fantasy is in a weird place for me. Because every time I try to brew a commander from Final Fantasy, I try to pick one of the lesser known, one of the smaller ones. I try not to do anything too big. Like, the one I was brewing in particular was Matoya, Archon Elder. And I'm about, like, almost finished with the deck, and I just want to delete it and start over. Because I'm like, I just don't see how this is, gonna be the thing. But I will say there are a lot of cards from Final Fantasy that have made their way into other decks that I've been brewing. So while I might not have a commander from one yet, there are lots of other cards making their way into decks that I am also brewing.
No, absolutely. That's kind of how I've been feeling in terms of commander decks, because like I made a Brawl VV deck for Arena because I wasn't able to pull VV after two. Don't break the pen. After 2 booster boxes, a bundle, and a pre-release kit, not a single VV to be seen.
Oh my goodness!
I got 2 lightnings. That's cool. Got a Cloud Midgar Mercenary.
What about a Sephiroth?
No Sephiroth.
What about a Buster Blade?
Oh. Buster makes me feel good. But I did not get the Buster Sword, sadly. I did not. But alas, not all things are meant to be. If I were to build a commander deck, which I have some cards pulled out for it, the uncommon Izzet commander, Emperor Palamecia. It's the 2-mana mana dork for non-creature spells. When you cast, you cast a 4-mana plus non-creature spell, gets a counter. When it has 3 counters, flips, and then when it attacks, it deals direct damage equal to the number of non-creature cards in your graveyard. So, like, you get to play all the things like Unexpected Windfall, the Big Score, those big 4-mana draw card, make treasure dudes. Get to run a fun card called Traumatize, where you just mill half your library. And then you get this thing to flip, and you attack, and you just deal, like, what? If you're milling... Let's say you've got 38 cards in the graveyard now, because you've been milling yourself. Maybe you hit a Traumatize late or something. Of those 38, let's say 15 of them are non-creature. You attack with this thing, 15 direct damage to everybody.
Yeah, seems pretty powerful, especially if you combo it with things that let you double up the damage dealt.
That's true.
And there's
no non-creature damage doublers in red or blue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
That
right.
doesn't
I
exist.
forgot.
Those don't exist.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's a fun deck, but we're not here to talk about commanders yet. We're here to talk about the set as a whole for Final Fantasy. Some quick little notes at the top before we start getting into some of the specifics of this very, very flavorful set. Got some statistics and my own personal thoughts. Went to pre-release, did a ton of drafts on Arena, and just from what I've been hearing,
I see.
I've been doing the research. I'm a Final Fantasy guy, so I'm into it. And from what I've been able to tell from people that have been drafting a lot as well, all 10 color combinations in this set in the limited environment are not only very viable, but like very well supported and powerful. And it really does just come down to what your pool is of cards to work with, because all of the strategies are absolutely able to win the game. And there's even like a couple of like weird hidden ones in there as well. Like if you get the Wandering Minstrel, suddenly you can do a 5-color towns deck and then just splash all the big bombs, high mana cost things and some ramp,
Right.
and you're in a really good spot. Wandering Minstrel is one of my favorite legends from the set, and I didn't even play that game.
Very quickly, though, before we get too far, you said you've done a couple drafts, and you did a pre-release. Did you do
Yes.
the pre-release in person?
I did the pre-release in person. Sadly, because of how expensive and how limited the product is, usually everybody gets you buy the pre-release kit in my local game store, you automatically get an extra pack for participating in the in-store pre-release.
Yeah.
And then everybody that is participating, there's an additional pack that is put into the prize pool. And you get a certain number of packs based on how you placed in the top whatever for people that participated. But because it was the product's so limited and scarce at the moment,
Yes.
we only got the one pack. So I did like 2 matches, best of 3. And I was doing red black. I got Garland and I got the Black Waltz #3, the 2 signpost uncommons. I got like Black Mage's Rod, and I was just kind of slinging some spells. Went 2-0 on one of them. Went 1-2 on the other one. They were playing the one that I lost to was playing the red green ramp deck and just like kind of forcing chocobos to happen, which it's not that difficult to force the chocobo to happen. And alas, I was not able to overcome that with non-creature non-combat damage. So
Unfortunate. But that does bring me back to another sticking point about the set. It is one of the most expensive sets that we have seen. So how much was the pre-release?
Pre-release was $55. Normally our pre-release kits are $40. And they like we were getting promos and stuff too. But the pre-release kits were a little bit more expensive than normal. Actually, sorry, no, it was 50 exactly. It was not 55. It was almost 55 after all the tax and stuff because we're in America.
This is America.
It's theft. It's theft. They're stealing from my Magic cards. But I bought a bundle from my local game store, which was honestly reasonably priced. It was like $65, I want to say. Wasn't crazy.
And you're supporting your local game
Exactly. Amazon, I got a booster box. Hello. Got a booster box from Amazon because I had a credit card rewards for my Amazon credit card, and I managed to, after using all of the points, spend only $14.38 for a booster box.
$14.38.
Big wins, baby. Big wins. And then I recorded myself opening all of the packs because I want to make shorts. I wanted to do like a little pack opening hangout thing.
Right.
And it was completely out of focus.
Oh, this was the one you were telling me about.
Yeah. So I went to the local game store, traded in a bunch of cards, and then I got another one after I traded in the cards. I think it was like $85 for a box. Like my local game store, the prices were fairly reasonable, even for a set like this where the quantity was limited. The one thing where they were unreasonable, though, you could not buy an individual commander deck. They were only selling them as a pool of 4 decks. because they knew that if they sold them a la carte, they would have been gone like
Oh yeah, instantly.
immediately.
Yeah.
At this point, after we're recording this on Wednesday, last Friday I went to Friday Night Magic, and the Commander decks were still there, and they were selling them as individual now, but at the inflated Commander deck like TCG player prices, so like $100 for a deck, which like
Right.
I don't blame them necessarily, but
Whoa, $100 for a Commander deck. I feel you could find Commander decks for a way better price than $100.
perhaps, mayhaps even $15
Perhaps.
on a YouTube channel like Typical Gemini, where he makes deck techs and keeps it very inexpensive.
Pshaw.
Pshaw, indeed, sir. Pshaw. But while we're on the subject of the Commander decks, each of the 4 Commander decks are themed around one of the Final Fantasy games. 4 of the most popular ones, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy XIV, all have Commander decks built around them. The 4 Commander decks in total give us 65 new legendary creatures. Beat him up, man. Smack him
She's
around.
getting me.
My goodness. The main set has 99 legendary creatures for a Final Fantasy total of 164 legendary creatures and 164 possible new commanders, not including the bonus sheet where they're reprinting very powerful legends reskinned as Final Fantasy characters.
I guess this really will be the Final Fantasy.
Oh, yes, yes. You know, fun fact, the reason that the game was originally called Final Fantasy, the guy who made it, it was like his last shot to get a game to be successful, to continue to be a game developer in the early days in the 90s when video games were still trying to like scratch and claw and be relevant. And the first Final Fantasy was super popular, and he managed to make another one, and then he managed to make another one, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
That is
Anyway,
a fun fact, because I did not know
fun.
that.
It is fun. But with these Commander decks, those Final Fantasy entries, 6, 7, 10, 14, super popular. Those characters by far the most popular in the franchise. Mm-hmm. 7, 10, and 14 in particular. 6 a little bit less so, but 7, 10, and 14 are very, very overrepresented in the set as a whole. So, especially given the fact that all of your favorite characters from those games are represented in the Commander decks, and then also a large chunk of the main set, you suddenly are like, oh, out of the 16 mainline Final Fantasy games, the other 12 are having to fight for half of the main set for art and for names and for legends. They get squeezed out a lot by the big Final Fantasies, which is a little bit of a shame, in my opinion. There's a lot, particularly Final Fantasy VIII, I think got screwed a lot. Final Fantasy VIII, and then some of the early ones, like 1, 2, 3 had their core principles represented, but they're not like super iconic characters. 4 and 5 and 8 are like the big super underrepresented ones, and then like 11 and 12 are all, like, they clearly favorited certain Final Fantasies, which is a bit of a shame. But
Do you think 8 gets a bad rap because 7 was so popular and they had to follow that up?
8 gets a bad rap because 7 was so popular, and they're like, we need to change something. And then the system that they used for magic and leveling is very not classic JRPG. So I played a little bit of 8, so I'm probably going to get this wrong. But like, one of the core things is you have to, in JRPGs, like the rogue, the thief, where you like steal items. Yeah. Every character can do that, but they're not stealing items. They're stealing like an energy resource that you then use to craft like individual casts of magic and individual uses of abilities. And then you can equip a whole bunch, and then you can augment them and like make things like dual cast or triple cast, or like level up from fire to Fyra to Fyraga and that kind of stuff. And the worst part is because it's so fluid with how powerful you are based on how much of this resource you've gathered and how much you're able to utilize it through crafting, the entire game is level scaled. So you can't really like over level yourself at all either.
Right.
So it's between that and then coming off the heels of Final Fantasy VII, it definitely gets a bad rap. But you look at any of these, the big games, like 6, 7, huge. For all the kids out there. 6, 7? 6, 7?
Yeah.
That's a whole thing. I don't understand it, but the kids that I coach are always doing like 6, 7. I'm like, I don't. Just shut up and start swimming. Anyway,
What are you kids talking about?
what are you saying?
I know
And then-
why 9 was afraid of 7 because 7 ate 9.
Oh my god. But so then they went all the way back, and 9 was like way more of a classic Final Fantasy aesthetic, like going back to the aesthetics of like 1 through 5, but then bringing it up to like the modern systems of like 6, 7, and going like more classic JRPG. And then 9 was the one that was super popular, home of one Vivi Ornatier, one of the most popular commanders from the set. Incidentally, according to EDH Rec, in the last 2 weeks, the most built commander is the face commander for the Final Fantasy XIV precon, Ishtola Knights Blessed. The Esper one. Yeah.
Go figure.
I would not have guessed that personally.
No.
But it's like Ishtola, and then like Sephiroth is up there, and the Naya Cloud from the commander deck is up there, and like some of the ones you would have more expected, but I would not have expected Ishtola to be at the top.
But that's the thing. Does EDH Rec count it as you building them, or like
Decks
people
that they've
looking
scraped.
looking up because they bought the deck?
No, these are so EDH Rec scrapes like Moxfield and Architect and hello Chester, hello Cat, and they scrape them for decks, like deck lists individual people have made. So unless people are like uploading the precon deck list for their own thing a lot, I don't know, like precon commanders usually are towards the top because people have them and they want to augment them and then track the changes that they've made to them. So a lot of them are like adjusted precons, upgraded precons.
Yeah.
But Ishtola is number 1, followed closely by Vivi, and then main set Sephiroth, the Cloud Commander, and then all from the main set, Kefka, Choco Seeker of Paradise, Terra Magical Adept, and the Wandering Minstrel for 5 through 8. And then somehow Tevel, the balanced scale from Dragonstorm Tarkir, is 10th overall, beating out a lot of the Final Fantasy legends, which I find fascinating.
Well, you can't keep a good dragon down.
True. Dragon, of course, 13. Jodo the Unifier, 15. Edgar Markov, 17. Even now.
You know, I'm not surprised with Joda. Joda probably is eating very, very good this set because
absolutely.
there are so many legendaries.
Absolutely.
That Cascade probably goes absolutely crazy.
Yep. And there's a good number of legends that have Legend Matters abilities attached to them in the main set, particularly in green and white. But especially if you're running like 5-color towns with the Wandering Minstrel, you can basically run every legendary creature you get if you have a couple Legends Matters in there, and you're going to be color fixing to high heaven. Like it's good shit. But that's enough rambling on for now. Let's get into the set mechanics for the main set of Final Fantasy. There are 5 core mechanics and then a couple that I've added on. The first one, Job Select. It is a keyword ability exclusive to equipment in the main set. When the equipment enters, you create a 1/1 colorless hero token and you attach the equipment to it. Those equipment also tend to confer a creature type of the associated weapon style to the hero token as well. They don't confer color, so they're still colorless creatures. But the equipment themselves are all have one single color. None of them are 2 color. But like the white mage's staff makes them a cleric and then cares about life gain, and then the black mage's rod turns them into a wizard and they deal non-combat damage when you cast non-creature spells and that sort of thing. Tiered is a new form of kicker yet again. Tiered, it appears on instance.
It all comes back to kicker.
It always comes back to, like, one of my friends, Lincoln, hates that I compare everything to kicker, but like, it's fucking kicker, dude.
Yep,
like, it just is
kicker.
what it is. It always comes back to kicker. but tiered. It appears on instants and sorceries that have 3 additional costs that you are required to pay you are required to pay only one of them. You cannot pay for multiple tiers at the same time. You have to choose one to successfully cast the spell. Each tier increases the total mana that you are spending to cast the spell and the quality of effect. So, like, lightning magic will deal is 1 red mana, and you can pay 0 extra for it to deal 2 damage to a target, or you can pay 2 extra to deal 4 damage to a target, or more to deal more.
This must be the Fire Rega thing you were talking about earlier.
Thunder, Thundara, Thundaga, Blizzard, Blizzara, Blizzaga, that kind of stuff.
Thanks, Kingdom
for
Hearts.
each of. They got it from Final Fantasy. I love Kingdom Hearts. I was sad there wasn't like a sly Kingdom Hearts reference in any of this, but
yeah,
that's neither.
Disney is probably keeping that pretty tight.
Yeah, probably. They do own it, not Square Enix, which is a shame. But Saga Creatures, I think the most interesting addition to the set. You know what a saga is? It's an enchantment where it adds a lore counter at the beginning of your first main phase. And then it triggers an ability, and when it reaches the maximum number of chapters equal to the lore counters, it self-sacrifices. You all know what creatures are. They're creatures, and they have summoning sickness and power and toughness and keyword abilities. And they combine the 2. So now you have Saga Creatures. They're all summons. Summons are a very big mechanic in Final Fantasy where you summon this great god or this great ethereal being to help you in your battles. And they don't stick around for the entire battle. They're usually a limited time thing, and then when the summon goes away, you return to like the normal combat in the games. So it's very thematic in that sense, where you get the Saga Creature, you get these powerful abilities, you get a body that's immediately able to block. If you're able to give it haste, it can attack immediately. Most of them are only going to be able to attack once or twice, because that 3rd chapter ability or the last one is going to sacrifice them before they can attack. A lot of them have very good keywords on them. The big one, of course, the colorless 9-mana bomb of Bahamut. Very, very powerful card.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of the most interesting design spaces for this set is the combination of the Saga enchantment and the creature.
Yes.
Transforming double-faced cards. These are all legendary creatures that have triggers, conditions, and or mana costs associated to flip them onto a more powerful backside of their card. This is showing them developing as their characters do throughout the game. Villains, obviously, the classic JRPG, you fight the bad guy, and then you fight like the really big angel version of the bad guy as well. It's that kind of vibe. Unless otherwise stated, this is exclusive to the legendaries from Final Fantasy 16. Those ones specifically say they exile themselves and then return to the battlefield. And then they turn into Saga Creatures. And then on the backside, instead of self-sacrificing, they instead exile themselves and return to their front face. Yep. That's a little bit of a play on how Final Fantasy 16 handles summons. The rest of them, though, when they are flipping, they stay on the battlefield, so they keep all of their counters. They keep, they no longer have, like, if they don't have summoning sickness, they still don't have summoning sickness. They can attack immediately. Any sort of modifications, auras, equipments, anything like that, they keep. The last core feature is the Adventure card. This is only on 5 cards. It is 5 monocolor lands that are also towns that have adventures associated with them. So you can cast the adventure spell, and then you have a land drop from exile. It will enter tapped. It only taps for 1 mana, but it increases your spell count and takes over a land slot. Yep. The last 2 minor ones, speaking of towns, it is a new land type. It's got 1 town for each of the 10 color pairs. They all enter tapped. They all tap for 1 of 2 colors of mana. And then several utility towns, like the Gold Saucer that has other tap abilities on it. And then a couple that allow you to choose like the color of mana that it taps for when it enters. And then the big one, the starting town. Big CEDH vibes from the starting town land. It can tap for colorless. You can pay 1 life and tap for a mana of any color. And then if it is the first, second, or third turn of the game, it enters the battlefield untapped. Lastly, along with lands, there are 5 land cycling creatures, very similar to Lord of the Rings. These are high mana value creatures that have a land cycling ability of 2 mana instead of 1, unlike Lord of the Rings. but they are not basic land cycling. So swamp cycling on Marlborough can go search up any swamp, be it a basic or a multicolor land that has the basic land type of swamp associated with it. We also have the return of vehicles. We have flashback cards where they are on sorceries and instants that are depicting scenes that are flashbacks in the game. Very thematic.
Ooh, that's cool.
And we have a pair of cards that meld together. Fang, Fearless Lassie, and Vanille, Cheerful Lassie from Final Fantasy XIII. Those two characters have a thing where they kind of fuse together at one point in the game and become this very powerful Golgari creature for Magic the Gathering. What kind of set mechanics really speak to you, Wyatt? We also have a lot of one-off returnings. There's a creature that has prowess, a lot of fun keyword abilities, a lot of one-off things for individual legends, as we've been getting a lot more of in recent sets. But what do you think of the Final Fantasy mechanics as a whole?
I really enjoy, not even knowing much about the game, but just I can tell that they put a lot of time and effort into crafting things that were going to feel authentic to Final Fantasy people who enjoy the game. Saga creatures really stand out to me because they've done a lot with enchantment creatures and sagas, like a bunch of commanders that care about one or the other, or sometimes both. And seeing those play out, that's always cool. And then the double-faced transforming cards, I like those too. No,
absolutely. They really nailed the flavor. I think it's kind of funny that a town can go on an adventure. I think that's just silly a little bit, but it's also kind of like the vibe of, oh, you're embarking on a quest from this location kind of a thing.
It would almost be flavorful if you had to play it as a land first and then go on an adventure. But
interesting. That would be a weird. That you have to do it. You have to do the adventure side for That would be a weird thing to make work. No, I'm into it. I'm into it for sure. A note on the vehicles, though. Once Edge of Eternities comes out, there's going to be a couple of legendary vehicles that will be allowed to be your commander from now on. So keep that in mind going forward, commander players. One of the really good value drivers for this set in terms of base play booster packs is the bonus sheet. We have a very, very good bonus sheet with this set. Through the Ages is a bonus sheet that appears in 1/3 of all play boosters, and you have a guaranteed one in every collector booster with the possibility of it coming in foil in collector boosters. There are 64 cards throughout Magic's history that are reskinned as Final Fantasy characters, settings, and use Final Fantasy imagery. Every single one of those cards is exceptionally playable. You probably have decks that run these cards regularly. Dark Ritual, Lightning Bolt, Rhystic Study, Ranger Captain of Eos, Captain Lannery Storm, who's been reprinted to high hell, is available here. A lot of very, very good, useful, playable cards that if you happen to open one in a limited pool, if you happen to get one in a draft, you are probably going to be playing them. Urza Lord, High Artificer, a lot of partner commanders as well. Your Thrasios, Timna, Crom. Super great value in that slot.
Absolutely.
When you don't pull one of the uncommons. If you pull one of the uncommons, you're looking at $1 at best for the most part. But when you get to the rares and mythics, that's where you can really get some value. One of the most expensive cards from the base set. Non-foil base set, no collector, fancy frames. Anything that you can get in a play booster, the most expensive one is Rhystic Study. Obviously it is.
Obviously.
Big fan of the Through the Ages bonus sheet. A lot of people don't like some of the art that's available on them. I think that those people are just not fans of Final Fantasy, which is fine. You don't have to be.
Like what you like.
I know Pleasant Kenobi did a whole video rant specifically about the Rhystic Study. It's art from Final Fantasy X. It's not a screenshot from the game like he thought it was, and he commented on that in a future video. But I can understand why people would have an issue with it.
Right.
Personally.
But let's also not forget another thing that's making this set fly off the shelves. The Chocobos.
Oh, those Chocobos.
The Chase Chocobos.
So,
which I'm told you get special ones by racing in the games.
Yes, you can. So the chocobos are like a horse in the games. Effectively, they're like an ostrich that you can ride, basically.
Okay.
They appear in like almost every single mainline game, and you can ride them in most every single mainline game. Like it's just a core. It's like an upgrade to your how you traverse the world because it increases your speed, and you can like travel around faster. Oftentimes, you can avoid random encounters and stuff too. But the traveling chocobo, in addition to having several art treatments and a chase, oh my god, serialized. There we go. A chase serialized version in collector boosters. Also, an exceptionally playable card. Like, really, really playable.
Yes.
3 mana, you're able to look at the top card of your library. You can play lands, cast bird spells from the top. Obviously, chocobos, but like birds of paradise. There's just a lot of incidental birds that are just kind of useful to have. You're mainly playing it for being able to do lands from the top of your deck. And then it doubles the triggers of lands and birds entering the battlefield as well. For 3 mana.
Yeah, not bad.
It's a pretty solid card all the way around. But while we're here, the collector booster situation. A booster box of Final Fantasy collector boosters of 12 packs is currently upwards of $1,200. $1,200. A product that was MSRPing for like $400 to $500.
Yeah.
The prices are absolutely insane, driven by the frenzy of Final Fantasy fans in the world, which there are numerous, and the fact that collector booster products tend to not get second print runs. Because they have a limited quantity. You've got like the serialized chase cards and such. They can't reprint those without creating a new collector booster product. You saw that with Lord of the Rings, where they made the holiday edition collector boosters. They added some new arts, new frames to all the cards, and they were able to sell another wave of collector boosters with that. So Final Fantasy collector boosters are just kind of not available to purchase for the most part.
Yeah.
My local game store, by the time I was there for pre-release, the only box that they had was a Japanese box that was opened and they were selling individual packs from. Everything else was gone in terms of collector products.
You know, I believe the professor made a comment about that in his video, the booster box game.
Oh, yeah.
About how he paid $800 for the boxes, but they've only gone up since.
Yeah. I frankly wish I had purchased one when it was $700, because I could sell it right now and have made like almost double my money.
But how would you have known? You know, hindsight's 2020.
I know. I feel like the universe is beyond collector boosters. If you can get a box at the beginning when it's still relatively reasonable and you just wait a year or two, they skyrocket. Like, all of those Lord of the Rings collector boxes now are over $1,000 as well. Final Fantasy just jumped to that shark immediately, is all.
Right.
So Final Fantasy was like a very quick turnaround, but if you look at Lord of the Rings, if you look at Fallout, you look at... Well, Warhammer had the collector decks, but Fallout actually had collector boosters. Like, those universes beyond... The Doctor Who collector boosters are way expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The Assassin's Creed one's not as much because, you know, those fucking mini boosters, but that's neither here nor there. I'm sure you've got many a thought about the collector environment that is running around with Final Fantasy. What do you have to get off your chest, Wyatt?
I mean, like, for honest to God collectors, have at it. Like, I'm glad that you have something to collect. I am standing behind people that, you know, make collecting their hobby.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. If it's something you want to collect, cool. What I'm not cool with is holding these things as investments, as gains. You know, people who buy it with the intention of flipping it, or buy a lot of them i.e. scalpers, that will just hold on to this product knowing that it's a limited print run, or, you know, has a limited printing currently until they release the next run.
They're totally doing a holiday collector booster.
Yeah.
There's no way they're not. I refuse
No
to
doubt.
believe they're not.
Right.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But I want to draw a line here specifically. Because something that I'm going to do if I am financially able to is when this holiday collector box comes out, I'm going to pre-order 2 of them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to open one of them.
Right.
And then at some point I'm going to sell the other one and cover the cost of the 2, you know?
Go ahead.
And I think the people that do that kind of stuff, where they buy 2 with the intention of opening one and then selling off the other one to recoup the cost to kind of cut it down, totally okay with that.
Oh yeah,
that
no.
That is not scalper energy at all.
Yeah, that's not at all. Like you said, that's 2. You know, people who even buy maybe like 3 or 4. It's just when you start getting into the area of like you're buying the entire supply.
Yeah.
You know, and granted, we're all 20 to 30-year-olds. You know, Magic's largest demographic. Mm-hmm. But to keep Magic alive, you have to keep bringing in new players. And, you know, it's hard to bring new players in who are excited about Final Fantasy or any of this other stuff if there's nothing for them, if they can't get their hands on the cards without paying an extreme markup, which you should not do.
But I want to play my favorite character, Cloud, from Final Fantasy VII. I want to bling him out. So I'm going to get the borderless Surge foil that you can only get from collector boosters. Oh no, it's $410.
Yeah.
For the face commander card in Surge foil with a different art. The face commander cards are very inflated, and if you look at the price chart, I imagine they're going to go down a fair bit. But then again, they're going to just kind of creep back up because there's no more collector boosters that are going to be printed of this version.
Them?
Exactly. These are all basically every card with a couple of exceptions are like, you got to do another Final Fantasy print run.
Yeah. And argue all you want about Universes Beyond. All of these cards are unique and powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And standard legal now.
Mm-hmm.
Standard legal. Vivi is going to tear up standard. Already has.
Yes.
Which, by the way, when they do the next BNR announcement, I hope they don't go out of their way to get rid of like Corey Steelcutter, Vivi, all of that kind of stuff. Because I feel like they've already printed the tools to handle that deck. And people just aren't playing that card.
Right.
It's high noon from Thunder Junction.
Yeah.
1 and a white, players can cast 1 spell per turn. It's an enchantment. And then later on, you can pay 4 and a red and deal 5 damage directly to any target.
I think it's just going to depend on what they see from the meta going forward. Because, yes, metas should change and adapt as things become available and things leave and all this other stuff. But at the same time, if your meta is consistently like 90%, 80%, even 75% of the meta being a Corey Steelcutter prowess meta, I think it's definitely not off the table to see a Corey Steelcutter ban.
Yeah. I think that Corey would go before something like Vivi, just because Vivi's still very new.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to want to take Vivi off the table already, because this is definitely not a Nadu contingency.
No, this is not a Nadu situation at all. Yet.
This is not Vivi Summer.
No. And I'm still betting on the common Wild Ride playing a part in a Vivi, like an all-in Vivi deck, because there isn't really an all-in Vivi deck. They've augmented Is It Prowess with Corey Steelcutter to make and put Vivi in it. There's not the all-in Vivi combo deck that it would effectively be yet. But that's neither here nor there.
Maybe you'll break that meta wide open.
Maybe. I think High Noon from Thunder Junction is a very good answer to the current meta. Between Mono Red Aggro and Is It Prowess being like, 60% of the standard deck metagame? Like, main deck High Noon 4 copies and main deck a Braid at 4 copies, and you should be able to handle those decks. Like, I don't know what shell, like a Boros shell of some kind. I don't know what deck those cards go into, but the answer's there. People just need to figure it out instead of just going with the meta options. But I'll get off my
soapbox.
I'll get off the box here. Let's get into some individual. Actually, before we get into individual cards, let's talk a little bit about the commander decks. Is that okay with you? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
For commander decks, we got Final Fantasy VI headed up by Terra. Terra is effectively it's Alesha who smiles at death. It's Mardu Graveyard Recursion. There's a lot of very good, very interesting legends in this set. There's there's a mono red one that has like Riot, and like if you were to build a mono red commander deck where you want that thing going to the graveyard because you can cast its Riot ability from the graveyard, you can do a lot of cool shit. I think it's probably one of the more underrated of the 4 decks. It's definitely powerful. I've seen it run. One of the guys at my local game store got all 4 of the decks, and then we just did a little pre-con pod commander night a couple weeks ago. We also have the Final Fantasy VII deck, which is a Naya equipment deck helmed by Cloud. A lot of very fun equipment in that deck. A lot of equipment matters. I think Naya is a very good color combination for that. Adding in green, kind of getting a little bit of the shoring up some of the weaknesses of your standard Boros equipment deck is cool.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X, you get Counter Blitz. That's green, blue, and white, helmed by Tidus. If you like putting +1/+1 counters on things and then manipulating those counters, there's a lot to go around there. And it also, in the pre-con, printed an infinite combo. The backup commander of Yuna and Walking Ballista and Grahatia, I believe. If you have those 3, or no, it's Hardened Scales. There's a couple of ways to do the infinite combo where you just infinitely are able to get +1/+1 counters on Walking Ballista and then remove the infinite +1/+1 counters to deal direct damage and win the game. That would be one of the 4 I would purchase because I really love Final Fantasy X.
Yeah. You know, back in my day, they didn't put infinite combos in precons.
That is true. Part of me thinks that might have been a slight oversight. I think they were like, Walking Ballista would go great in here, and then just kind of threw it in without thinking through the lines entirely. Oh no.
Walking Ballista is such a good card.
We broke Walking Ballista for the first time ever, said nobody, except for the first time that it was printed. And then the last one, which I think would be my favorite to play, even though I've never played the game, is the Final Fantasy XIV deck, helmed by Ishtola Knights Blessed, a Big Spells Matter value control pile in Esper. And that deck is the one that I played in our little pre-con pod, and I almost won.
Ooh.
I lost to the counter blitz. To the counters. But an interesting thing about Ishtola, you kind of have to plan your instance on other people's turns to get the most card draw out of her. But you're going to get incidental card draw from other people doing their own things and attacking people and dealing damage unrelated to what you're doing. Right. And it's also very easy to cheat on mana cost for something that has a mana value of 3 or greater in Esper colors. So I think there's a reason that one's the most built, and I think it's the most powerful commander. I don't think it's the most powerful deck. I think the Counter Blitz deck is the most powerful deck, with Ishtola being the most powerful commander, in my opinion.
Right.
What do you think of the commander decks? Are there cards within them that you're really chomping at the bit for? Maybe something that went a little under the radar originally?
I haven't really seen anything thus far that stands out to me personally, but then again, I have been more just obsessed with the set itself, and I'm sure that at some point I'll get into the nitty-gritty with the commander cards when I'm really digging one day.
Yeah.
But they all do look very, very fun from what I've seen on all of the commander play shows.
Oh, yeah.
Watching them play looks very fun. I have a friend who picked up the Cloud deck, and he has asked me for some equipment recommendations. So I've been working on that a little bit. But they just look very interesting. I mean, a Naya equipment deck is something we haven't really seen a whole lot of, so that's a new direction for it. I feel like everybody does counters every kind of way, so I feel like you can't really get away from that one. But
and they have the sub theme of the Saga enchantments as well, and being able to manipulate the counters on those. That like the Face Commander Tidus, he proliferates, but he's also able to take counters from other things and put them on him and turn them into +1/+1 counters, or just move them off of things. So you're able to multi-trigger these Saga creatures as well on their most powerful chapter abilities, and then you get to keep the creature around as well. So it's not just +1/+1 counters either. They get there's a little bit of counter play, if you will.
And then the Esper one just seems cool. There's a reason that it's coming out as #1 on EDH Rec.
So there's one card I want to call out in particular. It's from the Final Fantasy XIV deck. I want to call it out. It's one of the job select equipments. Dancer's Chakrams, 3 and a white. Job select. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has lifelink, and other commanders you control get +2/+2 and have lifelink. Kind of a lieutenant ability, particularly useful in the Final Fantasy XIV deck because your commander is dealing non-combat damage when you're casting spells. And if you give that lifelink, you get the life gain, even though it's not combat damage.
Right.
I think that card's going to find a home in a lot of direct damage, particularly Boros decks.
Oh, for sure.
In particular, I just wanted to point that out. Also, the card I was thinking of was not Grahatia, it was Gata and Luzu. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, that's the one. Anyway.
That's the one.
All right. Commander decks are cool. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. The main set has a lot of very cool cards.
A lot of bangers.
Lot of bangers. Of course, the big ones, Cloud Midgar Mercenary, equipment, double up the triggers, tutor and equipment, 2 mana, great. Sephiroth Fabled Soldier, Aristocrats, flips, gives you an emblem that's great for Aristocrats. Awesome, cool, love it. Buster Sword, all around great value. We already talked about the Traveling Chocobo.
We did.
There's 2 cycles of cards that are worth mentioning before we really dig into it. The crystals. Crystals are a big motif, particularly in earlier Final Fantasies. They kind of become like materia. They turn into espers for other games. But then crystals kind of made a comeback in the later Final Fantasy games. There's 4 or 5 total, 1 for each color of mana. They cost 2 generic and 2 of that colored mana. They're legendary artifacts that give you a 1 mana discount on any of their color of spells. They all have a variety of static abilities associated with them, and then a more expensive activated ability where you can tap it and gain a benefit for your board. The white one cares about life gain. The red one gives haste. That sort of thing. The classic color pie shenanigans. The other cycle I want to call out are side quest enchantments. These are enchantments that offer benefits when they enter the board or affect the board state. And then once you fulfill whatever their requirement is in terms of paying mana, in terms of causing a trigger to occur, they flip to a backside where they become a slightly more useful card, something that impacts the board state more. You get a land for the white one, you get an equipment for the red one, you get a vehicle for the blue one, a chocobo for the green one, and that sort of thing. But Wyatt, I don't know if you're still there, because the call kind of stopped. Uh-oh. Rutro, SpaghettiOs. He's gone. Oh boy, I don't know how to go on at this point. I think I'm going to stop for now. Okay, so I went over to the computer and we started pulling out all the Moogles that were fucking around in there.
Yeah.
So we should be good now. Take 2.
Yep.
Let's start it all the way from the top. So, Wyatt, welcome to the... I'm kidding. We're gonna
from the top.
And from the top. So I just got done talking about the side quest enchantments. They enter as enchantments. They have an ability when they enter, or a static ability when they are on the battlefield. If you fulfill the requirement, they flip to their backside. The white one turns into a land. The red one turns into equipment. The blue one turns into a vehicle, etc. Those are the main cycles of cards. We already talked about the towns. We talked about the big bads.
We did.
Your Kefkas, your Vivis, your lightning army of one, which I pulled 2 of in a booster box. It was very cool. She's beautiful. I love that card. It's such wonderful design. But let's get into some of the spicy singles in this set. Ooh, hot singles in your area, if you will.
Oh yeah.
So, a card that was previously printed directly into Modern, that was reprinted specifically to sell packs for Modern players, has been reprinted here in a standard legal set. Dark Confidant has arrived in Final Fantasy. Dark Confidant. Oh my goodness. We got flustered. I should have been more prepared. Is 1 and a black for a 2/1 human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, you reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Kind of a Phyrexian Arena vibe on a creature. You can get it at 2 mana, so you can play it on turn 2, and then you start drawing 2 cards a turn cycle. Was proven to be very powerful for a very long time in Modern. Do you think we will see Dark Confidant rise again in Standard? Is it relevant in Modern Magic?
Maybe, but I doubt it. I think that Magic's come so far that unless there's like a very control heavy deck that's just literally trying to grind out value, I don't see it being that important. I don't see it being able to be a threat. But that should just say something to the kind of power that we have in Standard and Modern at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I want to pose a theoretical to you, because there's another card that I want to talk about, and that was Cecil. The 1 mana, what is it, 2/3 with Death Touch, that it deals you damage to the damage that it deals. It deals damage, you take damage equal to the damage that it dealt.
Yeah.
And then when your life total is less than half half or less from your starting, it flips to the other side where you get a 4/4 with lifelink.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, like, ironically, an aggressive black-based list that's running Cecil and Dark Confidant to help reduce your life total quickly, so you can flip to the backside of Cecil and then start gaining that life much faster, and then Dark Confidant has Indestructible, and then adding some other pieces around it, because turn 1 Cecil, turn 2 Dark Confidant is a very good setup in a black-based deck, I think.
It could be. Yeah, we could see something like that, but it comes down to, with surprisingly enough, with Corey Stillcutter and Mono Red, or is it, or however they want to play it, taking yourself down to that amount of life kind of poses the same problem that Death Shadow does, where you're trying to strike this balance, and sometimes you're going to ride that lightning all the way into the grave. And the only problem I have with that whole thing is Cecil has to attack to get the trigger. So it's not just like the minute you hit that life, he flips.
Whenever
he has to deal damage.
Whenever it deals damage, you lose that much life, and then if your life total is less than or equal, it flips. And then you untap him as well, which is important, because then you have a 4/4 life-linking blocker as well.
Right.
Which
Slick Shot show off, though.
True. Can a Slick Shot get up to 10 damage on that same turn? Maybe like an Orzhov list that wants to start with black and then get into something like throwing down Aerith, throwing down life gain stuff on the back end, after that flip.
I could see a very control, maybe like mono black control almost, where you're keeping the board as clean as possible. That way when you do get the flip, it's all just wide open. So then they're kind of racing against you to get you down low enough to where you don't even want to attack with Cecil, you know? Because now another thing to consider is people could use their pump spells on Cecil when you attack. And you could essentially take yourself out if you get too close.
That is true. I also want to call out from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, the Deep Cavern Bat. 1 black, 1/1 flying lifelink. When it enters, you look at your target opponent's hand, exile a non-land card from that until Deep Cavern's gone. Like kind of a grindier control, edict, hand control, Duresh, mono. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Because Deep Cavern Bat has seen some standard play as it is already. But yeah, I wanted to start off with the Dark Daddy himself, Dark Confidant, to lead off our discussion of individual cards. Wyatt.
Right.
What kind of card would you like to call out first? Maybe a combo of cards, since I called out 2.
No, you're good. The first one I want to talk about, Firion Wild Rose Warrior. 3 mana, legendary creature, human, rebel warrior. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, surprisingly, rebel is not a completely irrelevant typing.
And warrior as well.
Yeah, warrior's great.
Human, rebel, and warrior are all very relevant.
Yes. 3/3, equip creatures you control have haste. Whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's equip abilities cost 2 less to cast. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step.
Next upkeep. It sticks around.
The next upkeep. Oh, yeah. Even better. Like, this has huge combo potential. Not just with getting in for crazy amounts of damage with something that might double your combat steps or make tokens of itself, such as, I don't know,
a job select equipment, mayhaps?
A job select equipment, or I'm trying to think of it's the card that combos with Godo.
Ooh,
Helm of the Host.
Yeah, Helm of the Host. Well, there's also Genji Glove in Standard now that was printed in this set as well that gives you an extra combat.
Yeah, so there you go.
Get a copy of that and a cost reduction on the equip end, so you can use the token as a cheap way turn of, and then the real one later turns. But that's also a lot of... We're workshopping it.
Right, we're working on it. But I just want to call that out. I think that's a actually very unique place for equipment decks, because that's always kind of this dichotomy you see with them where it's like, is the equipment worth it? Is the equipment worth the investment that you're going to have to make essentially twice, not only to cast it, but then to equip it? And is it going to be worth it for that brief moment where you're trying to equip it and then your creature gets removed?
Yeah.
I think Firion makes that so much better because the equipment that's coming in is 2 less. So even if the equip cost is 3, now it's 1. So you're not really going to be that messed up about, paying 1 mana to try to equip something, and then the creature gets removed. It's like, it was only 1 mana.
And there's a ton of equipment that have equip cost 2, which basically just makes it a free equip.
Makes it free.
You get an extra one for a turn, basically. And then you talk about the job select equipments, the 4 Mirrodin equipments, where they make the 2/2 rebels, where you then suddenly just get an extra body. The token, if it survives, also sticks around because it's only the equipment token that gets sacrificed, not the 4 Mirrodin creature token that gets sacrificed.
Exactly.
It helps build a little bit of an extra board.
And this is every time an equipment... I'm sorry to cut you off, but it was just every time an equipment enters. So if you play something like Sahili's Directive, which lets you put all artifacts that you hit from the top of your library into play, you're suddenly at a huge advantage of equipment that are going to be significantly cheap, if not free, to equip.
For at least the first turn. Which may be more than enough, especially if you got Cloud out there and you double the trigger and then suddenly you have 2 token copies of these equipment. Ooh. Yeah, Furion I drafted in arenas. I was doing an equipment list, and I didn't really think much of him until the third game that I played that draft deck with, and I got him in my opening hand. I played him on turn 3, and then I cast the Warrior's Sword, not really thinking about it because I needed a turn 4 play and I wanted to curve out. And then I had an extra one that had haste, and I was like, oh, I like that. And I swung in, and then eventually the equipment sacrificed itself, and then the token stuck around, and I was like, oh, double O. That's very nice. That's actually exceptionally useful.
Yes.
I was a very big fan of that.
Yeah.
Very, very big fan. Furion's great. Furion's fantastic. Really, I feel like even the common job select equipments where it's like, it's not like super well costed, like all of them are pretty freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about birds, though.
Birds.
Specifically them chocobos, okay? A lot of fun themed cards around it. Obviously, we talked about the traveling chocobo. But the most impactful one is just a tiny little guy. Just a small little man. Saz's chocobo. For 1 green mana, you get a 0/1 creature bird with a landfall ability. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. That's it. That's all it is.
That's all it needs.
That is literally all it needs. So, for one, I think it is one of the most powerful turn 1 plays you can have in a limited environment for Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Saz's chocobo, then like Cecil and Tonberry, like are by far the most powerful turn 1 plays you can have. Saz's chocobo is one of those cards that, in combination with other very powerful 2-3 mana cards in that kind of landfall archetype, I'm thinking like your Tifa, your Traveling Chocobo, Ride the Shoe Puff, Kina, Q Gourmet, like the make your Chocobo tokens vibe. Saz's Chocobo is a great removal check because it's one of those, it's going to go down immediately, and either they're going to be using their removal on the Saz's Chocobo to get rid of it before it gets out of hand, or they're going to use it on your bigger threat like a Tifa, and then suddenly you have a 6/7.
Boom.
Especially if you manage to get that Traveling Chocobo down, start doubling up those triggers, you getting 2 +1/+1 counters every turn. The Chocobo deck is very, very scary. Even the fat Chocobo. 5 mana 4/4, you make a 2/2 Chocobo, and then it gives everything trample for 3 more turns. Like, oh, big yawn. Big yawn. I know the Chocobos are very tiresome. I'm very sorry. But no, the Saz's Chocobo is just a little guy, adorable little baby that will stomp your entire face in.
Yeah.
If left untouched.
Much like a cassowary.
Do they do that? Cassowaries are like stomping faces in?
Yeah, that's what they do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can cut you with their claws and stomp you.
Alright. All right. Wyatt, what else would you like to talk about? What's your next card?
Just to keep it red, I gotta shout it out because this is probably one of my... This is the one I brew with the most. Summon GF Cerberus. 2 mana, 2 red for a 3/3 enchantment creature Saga Dog. First off, it just surveils 1 when it comes in. You're like, alright.
Super chill. Super chill.
Super chill. And basically you have until my next upkeep to remove it. Because from that point on, it gets crazy. So its second ability is double. When you next cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. And then if it gets to the last ability, triple. When you next cast an instant or sorcery this turn, copy it twice. You may choose new targets for the copies.
The Saga creatures are just... They're bangers. Even the worst one, Summon GF Efreet, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even that one's solid. GF Cerberus, I think, is one of the most powerful ones in the main set, at least. The commander decks have some stupid Saga creatures that are like... And then, obviously, like, the summon Knights of the Round, the summon Bahamut are the big ones, but a nice 4-mana 3/3 rare that red, not really known for spell slinging, might have the tool that it needs to really pop off, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great stat line. Surveil 1 is just like a setup turn, basically.
Right.
And then just the extra spells. And I feel like a lot of people are just going to just be like, oh, it's a 3/3. It did a thing. Whatever. Who cares? They're going to be like, oh, it's just one of those bulk rares. And then suddenly you're casting... what?
Insult to injury twice. So now the double damage is doubled. Or maybe you were able to put a lot of mana into a Jaya's Immolating Inferno.
I hate that. I hate the idea of that, but I'm also like really into that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, it's a very good summon, a very, very good summon.
What about you? You got another one?
Oh, I've got several. I've got so many. In fact, everyone talks about the Jumbo Cactuar. I don't need to talk about the Jumbo Cactuar.
No.
It's 10,000 power. It's cool. It's just fun. I want to talk about a common, though.
A common?
Very unlike me, I know. White Auracite. 2 white for an artifact. When it enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until it leaves the battlefield, and you can tap it to add a white. Journey to Nowhere plus Marble Diamond that enters untapped, 1 card.
Boom.
A 4-mana removal spell that ramps you in white. I've had great success with it. That red white equipment draft deck that I had 2 white Auracites, and I was always happy to have them because I would struggle to remove the 7/8 Saz's Chocobo early enough, and then suddenly I have a 7/8 Saz's Chocobo coming at my face. I'm like, I need to deal with this. Oh, go to exile, bitch. Lose your counters.
Yeah, get out of here.
Also, I have a white, so I'm going to move this equipment over real quick.
Yeah, look at that.
It refunds itself immediately. If it sticks around, then the thing stays in exile, and then you're just getting a mana rock on top of that. Not fun having your mana rock removed because they want their thing back.
Yeah.
But at the common slot, I feel like it's one of the sleeper hits of the set, ultimately. Especially in the draft environment. All right, Mr. Gemini. The Gemini man himself.
I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with an uncommon. I've seen a little bit of buzz about this card, but I don't think it's getting nearly enough.
Okay.
Torgal, a fine hound.
A very fine hound indeed.
2 mana legendary creature wolf, 2/2. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. Also says, whenever you cast your first human creature spell each turn, that creature enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each dog and or wolf you control. I feel there's something here.
There has to be. For one, it's a good old boy.
Yes.
He's a good old boy. Final Fantasy 16, low-key, one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, and it's the most recent one. It's very, very, very good. Highly recommend.
Yeah, but there are lots of green cards that give creatures flash. There are ways that you can, produce quite a few dog and or wolf tokens, and then make some pretty big humans. Mm-hmm. And then, something like, Feed the Pack, where you sacrifice that human and make a bunch of wolves, which you can then turn into a bigger human next turn and turn into more wolves. We have the technology.
I see what you're doing here, and I'm very, very into it. She is as well.
Yes, she is.
She's got a lot to say about that opinion, and it sounds relatively positive.
She likes that it's a dog.
I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't, right? What I don't like is that if you play any of the versions that they've printed of Clive, who is the main character whose dog it is, no access to green. So that's just kind of a tragedy there. Fail. Well, they were mostly done designing the set when Final Fantasy 16 came out, and they just kind of had to make a couple cards for it, you know?
Yeah, they couldn't all be bangers.
He's a mono red legend. He gets a reskin for Vile Smasher the Fierce. So black red there. No real access to green. Bit of a shame. But we move on. We move on. You can play him in standard if you really want to make that work. I want to call out the fact that they, in this beautiful Final Fantasy set, they managed to sneak in one of the best copy spells that standard has seen, like, in a very, very long time. Realms Sketching. 2 blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target artifact, creature, or land.
Banger.
Like, they just snuck that in.
Yeah.
I've seen barely anybody talking about it. And I'm like, when I first saw it, I'm like, it doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's sorcery speed. Oh, no.
Yeah.
But it hits all the core types that you're wanting to hit with a spell like this.
Absolutely.
If you want to copy an enchantment, get copy enchantment. Like, fuck off. Come on. But I don't know how that one flew under the radar. It's uncommon. It's not expensive at all.
No.
Very.
And that's the most surprising part, because Clever Impersonator is a little bit expensive.
It's pretty expensive, but I feel like it's one of those cards that's just going to start showing up one day, and people are going to be like, oh, why did I never notice this?
Yeah.
It's kind of a strictly better in some sense in some decks compared to the other 4-mana clones we've had.
For sure, and you can copy it.
It is a sorcery that can be copied. It works great in all of the high mana value spell, like non-creature spells matters things as well. Like, she's into it too.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Excited.
She's very, very excited about this set. Big Final Fantasy fan you're raising right there, and I really appreciate that.
I've just been putting on YouTube videos for her at night, helping her,
I love that. All right, how many more do you have in the chamber here?
There's 2 for sure that I want to call out, and then from that point on, I'm pretty good.
Okay, what do you got next?
First, I have to. I'm required to call out Sid Timeless Artificer.
Yes.
A 4-mana 4/4. You know, the 4/4 classic combo at Wendy's. Legendary
4/4.
creature, human artificer. Artifact creatures and heroes you control get +1/+1 for each artificer you control and each artificer card in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid Timeless Artificer, and you can cycle it for a white and a blue. The other cool thing about Sid that I found out is he's in 15 of the Final Fantasy games, which
that
is
is
why
true.
he got 15 art styles.
The only game he does not appear in is Final Fantasy 1, the original. Ever since then, he has been a recurring name in the Final Fantasy franchise. Not the same character. That would be insane. But he has appeared in every mainline Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy II. He is an iconic character, to say the least. And he runs the gamut from little chubby Santa Claus in Final Fantasy III all the way up to raw sex appeal Final Fantasy, what was that, 13? Final Fantasy 16 raw sex appeal, grandpa in 15, bald guy in 10. Sometimes
All over the place.
He's been a party member in some games. He's been a supporting cast member in some games, but Sid is absolutely iconic. And
There's a Sid for everyone.
there really is a Sid for everybody. There really, really is. Absolutely. No, Sid had to be called out. Sid had to be called out. We haven't really hit many of the multicolored cards quite yet. Do I want to?
Well, my next one is, so if you don't, I will.
All right, I need to talk about my boy Clive. Ifrit's Dominant. Notice I did not say Ifrit. In Final Fantasy 16, they pronounce it Ifrit for some reason. Sounds cool. 6 mana 5/5, 4 red for a legendary human noble warrior. When Clive enters, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to your devotion to red. And then for 4 red, you can tap him and exile him to have him return to the battlefield transformed under your control. You can activate it only as a sorcery. His backside. Ifrit, Warden of Inferno, a legendary enchantment creature saga demon. It is a 9/9, where when he flips, he fights another creature. And then 2 times in a row, you get add 4 red mana. If it is the third lore counter, you exile it and you return again Clive Ifrit's Dominance, where you can then discard your hand and then draw cards equal to your devotion to red and have 4 floating red mana available to you.
Boom.
My boy Clive, they were cooking with Clive.
They were.
I like a little wheel and deal here. Mm-hmm. I like the one card that really cares about devotion. It's one of the keyword abilities from, well, it's not really a keyword. One of the abilities from my beloved original run of Theros, where I first got into Magic. And Clive's probably one of my favorite main characters. Super interesting. Highly recommend the game. The story is beautiful. I mean, I'm going to flip him to a 9/9, kill your biggest thing, and then I'm going to have an extra 8 mana lying around over the next 2 turns. What of it?
Just for whatever.
Just casually. I love Clive. It's a shame that they had to design this set before Final Fantasy 16 was out, and they weren't able to incorporate more Final Fantasy 16 cards.
What are you going to do?
All right,
Probably release another Final Fantasy at a later point.
Final Fantasy Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
And then they're doing more Final Fantasy cards. All right, what do you got next, sir?
The next one I'm going to call out is Balthier and Fran. This is one that I'm super interested to brew, because it is a 3 mana 4/3 with reach. Vehicles you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. And whenever a vehicle crewed by Balthier and Fran this turn attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, you can pay 1 and Gruul. If you do, after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. This seems so good because 3 mana for an extra combat is crazy.
That's a very good rate.
Yeah. Especially if you get a vehicle out, turn 1, turn 2, you have something to crew. And it doesn't matter what it is. Just an additional combat out the gate is going to be tough to beat. 4 power will crew basically anything.
Anything you care about, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And if you pile this with other extra combats, I mean, this thing could get out of hand so fast.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And a Gruul vehicles deck, I think, is also kind of interesting. Not your classic vehicle style that you would think of,
Right.
No, I completely missed this one. That's crazy.
Still in the style of Gruul Smash, but not only does Gruul Smash, Gruul go fast now.
Gruul do go fast. And Smash. And have Vigilance and Reach, apparently. Mm-hmm. I think Vigilance is smart, so you just keep attacking with it. Especially with so many of those vehicles that have amazing attack triggers. Mm-hmm. And just being able to get
abilities, which you can use in your main phase 2 because they've attacked, but they don't tap.
Exactly. Oh, that's Vigilance. Good. Man, there's so many cool legends that are just so easy to overlook here.
Well, with 99 of them, there was bound to be a couple that slipped through the cracks where people were like,
oh, yeah,
maybe not paying attention to that one.
So along those lines, one that I think is also kind of slipped under the radar, but it's going to be a pretty decent little boost to Boros decks. Another one of my Final Fantasy 16 cards. I'm a little biased. Joshua, Phoenix's Dominant. 1 red and white for a 3/4 human noble wizard. When he enters, discard up to 2 cards, then draw that many cards. Then you can pay 3 red, white, exile him, return him to the battlefield, flipped to his backside, where he is Phoenix, Warden of Fire, a legendary enchantment creature, Saga Phoenix. 4/4 flying lifelink. Phoenix deals 2 damage to each opponent. He has lifelink, so you healed the 2. The second chapter ability is the same. The third one, this is the biggest one. Return any number of target creature cards with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile, return as Joshua, and then you get the discard to draw that many.
Boom.
Fill your graveyard with some relatively low mana value, powerful things. You get a 4/4 flying lifelinker for your troubles for a couple turns, and then rising from the ashes like the Phoenix, the titular Phoenix Warden of Fire. You get a bunch of creatures from your graveyard. Yeah. I think the curve on it is very good. 3 mana, you get the discard and draw, kind of a little hand refresh, get rid of some of the things that you can reanimate later. It's a good turn 5 play to put a little bit of pressure on, a little direct damage, a little life back. You then have a good 4/4 flying blocker that gives you lifelink as well.
Yeah.
All around, just kind of a solid role player card. I pulled one of them. It has already ended up in my Narset Jeskai deck because she wants things in the graveyard, and there's a lot of mill in that deck. Not a lot of ways to recur creature based things.
But now there is.
But now I got one. Total of 6 mana value or higher or less. 6 mana value or less.
Yep.
Multiple things, one big thing, doesn't fucking matter. In my
I'm sure there's a 2 or 3 card combo you can assemble with that.
No, I think Joshua's just a fantastic role player, and I think we've silently agreed with one another. We don't need to talk about Kafka. We don't need to talk like the big names that everyone's made a million fucking videos about already. Yeah. We like getting into the sauce, you know,
we're getting deep in the sin.
We're getting right into the sin, and I'm not talking about Spear's punishment either.
The one you really should be watching for.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, did you have one more?
I will round it out with this one. This is my last one. I'm actually currently brewing this one. And I'm actually super excited about the direction it's going. Sarah Farron. 3 mana, 1 generic, and Selesnium. For a 2/2 legendary creature, human citizen. The first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. And, at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 2 or more other legendary creatures, you may transform Sarah Farron. What does she transform into? A crystallized Sarah. I'm pretty sure that's a big story moment for whoever would know what's going on.
Yeah, but Final Fantasy 13. They're all getting crystallized there. It's the whole Fabula Nova Chrysalis thing. You don't need to worry about that.
Gotcha. But she becomes a legendary artifact, and it says the first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less. Same thing. But legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. I don't know if you know this. There are a lot of legendary creatures that are anthem effects and things that care about other legendary creatures.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of really good legendary creatures that are just like a little bit too expensive. It's like, ooh, if you were 1 less mana, you would be fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, Renoa Hartley, the other green-white legend. 3 green-white. That's a little. 1 green-white for the 4/4 that makes the 1/1 dog and then has an attack trigger. Suddenly much more provocative.
Suddenly much more better.
Much more better. If you pull... If you manage to draft Sarah and the Wandering Minstrel, you better be building a 5-color Legends deck.
That's all we gotta say.
That's all I want to say. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go with one more.
Let's hear it.
Okay. And it's not on the list. Because, well... I need to talk about my girl.
All right, let's hear it.
I need to talk about the one, the only, the Yuna, Hope of Spira. Mm-hmm. Okay. We're talking green-white. I figured might as well.
Right.
she's kind of lost in the sauce a little bit because everyone loves the grand summoning Yuna from the commander deck and getting the infinite combo action going on. But 3 green white for a 3/5 human cleric. During your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control have trample, lifelink, and ward 2. And then at the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with an finality counter on it. So obviously good with the saga creatures. And, thankfully they haven't printed powerful enchantment creatures that weren't sagas already. No, I think 5 mana for that kind of an anthem effect on your turn. She's giving herself trample and lifelink in ward 2, so on your turn she's more protected.
Yep.
Getting that graveyard recursion, and Yuna's best girl. So I wasn't gonna bring up Yuna because I'm a little bit of a simp. Been a big Yuna fan since I was a young man. But I got to put some respect on the name.
I think people fell into one of 2 camps. It was either Yuna or Tifa.
You were like almost there. You were almost there, man.
Again, I forgive my ignorance. I don't know Final Fantasy.
So Tifa's Final Fantasy 7.
Okay.
Yuna's Final Fantasy 10. Okay. Different camps entirely.
My bad.
Tifa had the you fall into one of 2 camps. It's either Tifa or Aerith. Okay. And then Yuna, you fell into one of 2 camps. It was either Yuna or Lulu.
Gotcha.
Lulu was the goth mommy.
Also, I was in the Lulu camp.
Yeah. Lulu was like the original goth mommy in a lot of ways. That might have been an awakening for me at a younger age. I might need to reflect on that more. I've been replaying Final Fantasy X, so I got some reflections to do. Yeah. People are gonna cry out, but what about Riku? I'm gonna say, what about her?
Yeah.
What about her? Yeah, she's adorable. That's wonderful. She acts like she's 15, and I think she might be. So, gross.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Anyway, I just want to call out Squall Seed Mercenary. Orzhov might be a CEDH commander. It's got some cool recursive things. It's neat.
Something to keep an eye
on. Louis Sua's Sacrifice. It's a 1-mana counter spell. You got to sack a legendary creature or pay 2 additional mana. It counters non-creature activated and triggered abilities. It's a Yuriko card, kind of.
Right.
So, do with that information what you will. I mean, the list could go ever on. We mentioned the Genji glove and the extra combat. We didn't even bring up one of my favorite uncommons, the Poo Poo UFO, where you can tap to put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Colorless land ramp now available to everyone and everything. In a similar
regalia.
The regalia,
which could
very
be your commander very soon.
That is true. Very similar vibe. Land ramp in any color now. That's awesome. Didn't talk about the land that becomes a vehicle as well. We got a hideaway land. Like there were plenty of things worth discussing. Didn't even get into the starter deck exclusive cards. But those cards were leaked. We talked about it in a previous podcast, and I made a whole video about it. So you can go look at that.
Yes.
If you want to learn about that. But yet another Cloud and Sephiroth, because we didn't have enough of those already. Anyway.
They know where the money is.
They know. Where do you stand at the end of this Final Fantasy set? What's the vibe? What's the rating? What's the final verdict?
I give Final Fantasy I give it, and this is just a personal score because I don't know the game, but I'll give it 4 chocobos out of 5.
4 chocobos. Okay.
Yeah. because I think it is. I still, at the end of the day, not knowing much, there is a lot I can glean from it, and not only that, I can't even hate. Like, the cards are cool. The design is cool.
It's so
the
good.
mechanics
It's on
and,
point.
and abilities of the cards are unique and interesting, and it gets me excited to brew with them. So, the only reason I can't give it a perfect score, price, and I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy. At least not yet.
So I give it 4.5 crystals out of 5. Mm-hmm. I should just give it a 9 out of 10, but there aren't 10 crystals. There's 5, so we're doing that.
Yeah.
I would say I think I liked the Lord of the Rings set more than this, just a skosh more.
Yeah.
I think the flavor of just vibe and feel from Lord of the Rings I think was a fair bit better than this, because I mean there's 16 games. It basically, this entire set is just references and theming, but the card design is just so solid. The Final Fantasy Secret Lairs, the card design also 5 out of 5. Love the card design. 0, -5 out of 5 on execution for selling them. Kind of same.
I mean, it couldn't get a perfect score across the board.
No. Not at all. Pricing 2 out of 5. Of availability 2 out of 5. Like, you can get your hands on it, you're gonna fucking love it.
You know, you know what? Now that you said that, I got to dock it another point. So now it's 3.5. Now it's 3.5 chocobos.
Oh, not you're cutting a chocobo in half.
No, it's just a baby chocobo now.
Oh, but not the.
It's just a baby. It's a baby
Sir.
chocobo.
Sir, don't. Your daughter is right there. Yeah, she don't give a shit.
What do you
All
think?
right. Cut the chocobo in half, Dad. All right. Final verdict. It's pretty damn good.
Yep.
Don't spend a lot of money on it.
No.
In fact, the singles prices on all but like a small handful of them are just like down the toilet because it's been opened so much. It's kind of awesome in a lot of ways, but
so buy singles.
Buy the singles, yes. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Bonus Action, the Final Fantasy set review, where we give it a pretty solid, pretty good, great card design.
Pretty good out of pretty good.
Pretty good out of perfect.
Yeah.
Pretty good out of perfect, unless you have to pay inflated prices, in which case not quite worth it out of perfect.
You know, I can't wait till Sam comes back and he gets to give his score on the Final Fantasy.
That's the thing. We're gonna need to do like a bonus action where we just catch up Sam entirely for everything that he's missed.
We just start barraging him with everything. And
all
then
right.
Final Fantasy came out, and here's all the Final Fantasy stuff.
So Ether Drift, they were racing throughout all of the things, and then a couple months later we found out that all those vehicles that were legends were going to be commanders, and okay, fine. Okay, I'll be done. The bit can be over, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'll give you your father back to you. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Bonus Action. Join us for the regular show, Duels and Manadorks, every other Monday. Free feeds. Join the Patreon to get early ad-free access. $5 a month. Get your name read at the end of the show. All that kind of good stuff. Go check out Typical Gemini. Subscribe on YouTube, social media across the globe. Dungeon Bros also. We love you very much. And as always,
Arrivederci.
arrivederci.